Hello friends, welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be reviewing for you the Maybelline Superstay Full Coverage 16-Hour Powder Foundation. The idea for this review came from looking at makeup products at my local drugstore, and I noticed there was the L'Oreal Infallible Powder Foundation, but it was entirely sold out in anything except one shade, which was not my shade. And that has been incredibly popular lately because it really blew up on TikTok. And of course, with where we are in the world right now, I'm not going to go store to store looking for that particular foundation, but it made me realize that I've never tried a powder foundation. And that's when I came across the Maybelline foundation and I thought, okay, let's give this a shot. When Maybelline describes the foundation on their website, they say Superstay Powder Foundation features a high pigment formula that achieves a full coverage finish that lasts all day. I always like to see what a foundation describes as the benefits because you want to test a foundation against what they say it's going to do. So their description says, packed with color matching pigments, this long-lasting formula delivers our highest foundation coverage ever in a powder. This full coverage powder makeup has a creamy texture that is easily blendable and glides onto the skin for a matte finish. From classic ivory and fair porcelain to golden caramel and java, this high coverage powder foundation is available in an extensive range of complexion matching shades. Right off the get-go, before we even talk about how the product performs, I wouldn't describe this as an extensive range. Now this is what is on their website here in Canada. It's entirely possible that there are other shades available maybe in the US or whatever, but here there are only 12 shades. I would describe 2 of them as deep, 4 of them as medium, and 6 of them as fair. When we do have foundations that are coming out in 40 and 50 shade ranges, this would not be considered extensive. And I do know there are some products like BB creams that say they cover a wider range of skin tones, but considering this is a high coverage formula, usually you need to be closer to the skin tone if that is what you're doing. Finally, they say to apply with a brush or a face sponge. Now that we know what it is and what it claims, let's get into the days of testing. I am ready for application on the first day. It's not going to be as long of a wear test today because I'm putting this on at 11:30 a.m. I just purchased this today, but the first day we're going to be trying this with no primer, I think no powder, just to see how it looks on its own, and then we can make an assessment of what should be added to it to make it better throughout the rest of the week. I have here the shade 110 Porcelain. It may be a bit light for me. And in this little package, it comes with the powder foundation, of course, but then it also comes with a little mirror in here and a little cosmetic pad sponge. So what I'm gonna do is use this on half of my face, and then I also have a dampened beauty blender to put on the other half of my face for the first day. We'll also try in future days buffing it in with a brush, all the things we can try to do. I guess I should zoom you in a little bit. My camera unfortunately does have a face filter, which is a little hard to, well, I don't think I can turn it off. I have tried to turn it off, but if I cover up part of my face, then it shows the actual skin texture. So my skin isn't bad right now. I don't have a lot of breakouts or anything. The issue with my skin is always that I have like a little bit of redness, like in between my eyebrows, on my cheeks, and then I do have a fair bit of texture. I had really bad cystic acne when I was a teenager, so I do have scars left from that. My skin tends to be, I want to say like normal, but it will get oily through the day with certain makeup on. So I'm going to keep an eye out for that as well. And again, covering up to show texture. And I'm going to use this on this side of my face. It does say it's high coverage, which is not my usual go-to, but that's okay. Weird. It's looking nice, but it's almost like it's made a line there on my face and it's filled some of my pores, but other ones it's almost like it's emphasizing. I'm gonna try to build that up a little bit, and I don't know if I'm supposed to use like swiping motions like that, but I feel that buffing it in will help with texture a bit more. Although on my forehead where there's no texture, that has gone on quite nicely and doesn't look dry or anything. I know this looks like terribly the wrong color. It looks more so on camera than in real life. It's looking quite nice on my forehead. And I should mention as well that I didn't do any primer. I did just wash and moisturize my face, and my moisturizer I put on, I want to say about 10 minutes ago. Okay, so I'm going to try to buff a little bit more of my problem texture area there, and then I'll be interested to see as well, oh gosh, that looks so white. I'll be interested to see how other products play with this. Like, do I use my cream liquid, you know, concealer with this? I don't know. It's interesting, it's looking patchier on camera than in real life. In real life, I'm quite liking how that looks. I know it looks super ghostly, but I think it's partly because like the light is catching it that way. My concern is going to be how it plays over this texture on my face, because it's not looking the greatest right there. I wonder if I can zoom that in. Like, I'm not saying it's emphasizing it, but it's definitely not smoothing it. Okay, let's try with a dampened beauty blender on the other side. I wonder if this is gonna give higher coverage, lower coverage, what? Oof. That is not looking good. It gives lower coverage, but it looks like it's... Why is it getting so weird and patchy? Something is not playing well on this side. You can see. It's like emphasizing pores, and it was almost like balling up a little bit. So on day one, I'm going to use just this sponge on my entire face. So I want to give it the best chance possible. And then we'll try with a brush and stuff on future days, and maybe go back to also trying a dampened sponge. It just seems to do this weird thing where in certain areas it's like lines form. Like, is that dry skin? I just don't even know. Let's see if I can show that. If you can see that right there, like, I don't know what that is. There it is on. I would say it's looking okay. I'm not loving how it looks in my texture, and I'm really curious about how this is going to play with the rest of my makeup, but I'm gonna go put on the rest of my makeup, and I do think that this could be maybe really nice with like the right, maybe pore filling primer, and then also like setting it with a good setting spray. For today, I'm going to use my powder products on top. I'm not going to use any powder to set it with, and I'm not going to use any setting spray. I'll be back with my makeup on. I am back with my makeup on, and it's okay. First of all, I can acknowledge that my eyeliner just went disastrously today. It became so incredibly thick, and then I had to match up the other side. But the powder is just looking a little heavy and just not great, like a little drying looking. Let me zoom you in. So I feel like it was helped out a bit. I used a fair bit of glowy blush. I have an Hourglass blush, and that sort of smoothed out my cheeks a little bit. It did not play well, as I was expecting, with my under eye concealer. So I put some concealer on. I was using a Maybelline concealer, liquid concealer, and it sort of seemed to remove some of the coverage of the foundation. So I had to go back in with the foundation again, just under my eyes. Right now, with everything being sort of blurred on camera, it looks okay, but it's just looking a little heavy, and it's emphasizing my like wrinkles above my lips a little bit. And I don't know, my first impression is that I don't know that this is for me, but I really want to work with this and see if I can make it work the best for me possible. And I will be interested to see how this goes in terms of controlling my face getting oily during the day, because perhaps what this would be good for is touch-ups later on in the day with other foundations that tend to get oily. Anyway, we're gonna play around a lot, so we will see where it goes from here. It is currently at 3:30, so 4 hours after I first put this on. And it's interesting. I like, in a way, the way that it's looking because I feel like it's warmed up to my skin a little bit, and maybe some of my natural oil has mixed with it a little bit, so it's looking just a little more natural, less powdery and dry than it was looking before. But it is looking surprisingly shiny for a powder product. I wasn't expecting that. So I'll zoom you in so you can look, but I am finding that I'm getting a lot of shine on my forehead, in sort of my T-zone area. There's shine on my cheeks, but I did put on a glowy blush, so that factors into it a bit, but I've mostly been noticing the shine on my forehead. So you can probably see, I mean, it's looking quite smooth, but it is looking like very shiny. And again, I'll do this to take the face filter off. So I hope you can see that it's looking like more skin-like, but it's looking fairly shiny skin-like. However, I assume because this is a powder product, it'd be fairly easy to touch up. I'm not going to do any touching up today because I want to see how it looks as the day goes on even more. However, it's not wiped off, which is good. When I go out into my hallway to take out my garbage, or I need it to pop down to my car to get something, I wear a mask, and I did not notice that it was disturbed at all by the mask, which is good. I'll be back for another update later. It has now been 8 hours since I put this on, and I am looking just as shiny, maybe a little more shiny, but it's also starting to look very heavy. So I'm ready to take this off. I feel like I did use a fair amount of the product, so I think what I'm going to do in future testing is use a pore filling primer and try to apply it with a brush to maybe have a little bit more control over the amount of product I'm using. So I'll zoom you in so you can see what it looks like. It's quite shiny, and I can feel that it feels pretty heavy, like around my nose and also on my forehead. And I do feel quite oily. Okay, I will see you in future testing days. Hey guys, it is day 2 with this foundation, and I am really loving how this looks after first application today. So what I did differently today is I used a pore filling primer. I used the Benefit Professional, which is like the original OG pore filling primer. And then I applied it with just a flat top brush, and I was able to have it be a little lighter on the application, but I really love how it smoothed out my skin and just made everything look very even. I put another glowy blush on top of it. I didn't set it with powder. It is a powder on its own, so I'm going to guess this is probably going to get a little oily through the day as it did yesterday. Maybe we'll see if a lighter application makes it feel a little less heavy. But I did a glowy blush. I put my under eye concealer on first, and there was no issue whatsoever with the two mixing. And yeah, that was, oh, I did a touch of bronzer along my hairline. But that was pretty much it. So I'll zoom you in to take a look. So I'm finding this is looking very flawless and very lightweight. So I'm just trying to get the face filter off. I find the only place that my pores are a little bit highlighted is where I put the glowy blush on. And it's a blush, it was a Laura Geller blush that is a little under pigmented, so I had to build it up a bit and it became very glowy. But that's not the foundation's problem. So I'm excited, we'll see how today goes. I've had this on for about 8 hours now, and it's doing fairly well. I'm just getting tired and I feel like taking my makeup off so I don't fall asleep in it. And I don't mean fall asleep for the night, because like obviously it's still daytime out, but I feel like I might have a nap. In any case, it's done better today. So I know it's looking a little red here, but I was out for a long walk wearing sunglasses. So it did sort of get a little rubbed away underneath where my sunglasses were. I did find about 3 hours in, it was looking a little heavyish on my forehead. But generally it was looking better today, although still very shiny. What I think I may do is use a little bit more of a like sticky kind of primer. I'm thinking that the pore filling primer was good, but I'm thinking it might have been the brush application that let this look a little lighter. So I'm going to do that, and I'm also not going to use any glowy products on my skin. I'm going to use a matte blush and no bronzer, just so I can see how it looks in terms of heaviness without any other products on top of it, because I do feel like maybe some of this shininess here is coming from my glowy blush, so I just want to see how that's working. So that will be tomorrow. I also may try like touching it up with a little bit of powder through the day to see if that takes away a little bit of the shine or if it just makes it far too heavy. So that's the plan going forward. But today was much better than day one. I don't usually do my hair dead straight, and it's thrown me off in the camera. Today I tried using this Sophia and Maybelline I Woke Up Like This Skin Perfecting Primer that I received in my March Ipsy, and I did an Ipsy unbagging. That's on my channel. I'll try to remember to link it down below. And it did not like this product. It got weird on my forehead. It seemed to be fine on the rest of my face, but it's almost like it not balled up a little bit, but it's looking weirdly super dry, but I don't think it's dry skin. I think it's just mixed in a weird way with the primer. And I did let the primer sit for like 5 minutes or so. I did my eye makeup, which is like a glitter explosion, before putting on my foundation. So I let the primer sit for the time I was doing my eye makeup. So I'll zoom you in and see if I can show you. It just looks like it's not applied smoothly. Sorry about my nails needing to be redone. It's not applied smoothly, and it's kind of like mixed a bit with the primer and just like pulled up the primer and then mixed it with the powder. So it seems that I'm finding that this powder foundation is really finicky with the products that it's used with how it's applied, which like isn't my favorite thing in the world. So it seemed to really like the Professional Pore Filling Primer. So I'm gonna let this wear through today. I'm going to see how it does in terms of like, you know, does this warm up a little bit and then start to look better? Today is a day where I used a blush that has no glow to it whatsoever, and it seemed to apply fine on my cheeks and the rest of my face. It just had an issue on my forehead. So I think I will use today to see how shiny it looks in this area when I'm not using any product with shine in it through the day. Today's been a bit of a disaster for this foundation from the start. It did seem to smooth out on my forehead a little bit as I got a little oilier through the day, but then I did get very oily. I used a blotting sheet, which did take away the oil, the shininess, and the feeling of oil, but it still felt incredibly heavy, like I could feel a layer of foundation on my face, and not even just when I'm sitting here, but like when I would touch, like if I touch my face right now, it doesn't, I mean, it feels oily here, but it just feels like there's a layer of like thick foundation on my skin, which is unpleasant. So onward and more testing to do, but this combination is a fail. For today's test of this foundation, I used sort of one of my go-to primers that always works with every foundation, just as a lovely hydrating base, and that is the Ciate London Watermelon Burst Hydrating Primer. It has a very light gel texture and just works really well with my skin. And it didn't interfere with the foundation going on today. And I used a very light touch with a brush to try to maybe not have it feel so cakey. It's just, it looks powdery at the beginning, but I don't necessarily want to set it with setting spray because then it tends to get oily. I think tomorrow I'm going to set it with setting spray and see if that helps in the beginning with how it looks, because then at about the 3 to 4 hour point, it starts getting shiny like it is right now. And it's almost like that little bit of shininess helps, you know, it not look powdery, but then it just starts to feel heavy, and it's feeling, again, a little bit heavy right now. Not as bad as yesterday because I went a bit lighter hand with it, but it's like there's no in between with this. It's like powdery, too oily. And usually with foundations that I like, because I don't wear makeup that much lately, being at home so much, There are other foundations and other makeup products that I wear where when I sort of pass by a mirror and see myself when I'm wearing makeup, because I'm not used to that anymore, I'll look at myself and think like, oh, that's right, I'm looking good today. And this one, it's almost like I look at myself and think like, ugh, like I look better without this makeup being on, which isn't great. So I think the only tests we will do going forward from here, because I'm sort of running out of primers to try it with, is we're going to try it with setting spray, and then I am going to try repowdering it when it gets a little oilier. I'm not sure if that will be today or on a future day, because I do want to see how, if I use the setting spray, how much quicker, or maybe it'll be better, but what difference that makes in terms of it getting oily and heavy through the day. We'll keep trying, but I'm not holding out a lot of hope. I'll put it this way, is usually almost any foundation I can get away with for doing filming if I'm not doing close-ups, because this makes my skin look really good no matter what I'm wearing. But I'm planning on filming a video tomorrow and I'm like, I don't want to be wearing this for it. I don't like the way it looks. So I'll keep testing because there's a few more things that I want to test, but it's definitely not my favorite. So off the bat, please excuse my hair. I obviously haven't done it yet and all my roots are showing. My makeup this morning, I think, is the best that it has looked so far with this foundation. So to start with, I realized the best day so far has been using a pore filling primer, but I wanted to see if this only worked with the Benefit one. So I used this Cover FX blurring primer. It has very much the same consistency as the Porefessional, and I quite like that one. I just threw it on the ground. And it did seem to work quite well with that. So it does seem to like the non-moisturizing primers, and the ones that are, like, these aren't drying, but pore filling, the smoothing primers. It seems to like the smoothing primers. And then what I did a very natural look today. I did the primer just in my sort of T-zone areas. I did the powder foundation with a brush, which is again what seems to work best, not putting on a heavy layer, but just smoothing out my skin tone. I used a Ciate London sort of glowy blush today, and then I finished it with this Glow Recipe Watermelon Glow Ultra Fine Mist, and this is from, oh, Glow Recipe. Now I know it says glow in there a whole bunch of times, but this actually isn't as illuminating as some of the other setting sprays that I have. This one seems to, yes, give some glow, but mostly just settle down any powderiness that I might have on my face. And right now this is looking really good. So I do find that this foundation usually starts to feel heavy at the 3 to 4 hour point. So I'm gonna be curious to see if setting it with a glowy setting spray is going to make it become oily or heavy faster. And then I'm also gonna try to touch it up today with powder. I might try to touch it up with itself or maybe some translucent powder. We'll see. We'll see if I can get it through like an 8-hour span and still have it looking good, even if I have to do some touching up. It's looking a little chaotic here because I'm about to film a grocery haul, which will have gone up before this video, so I'll link it down below if you're interested. I have been wearing this for 3.5 hours and it's gone through some stuff because I've been wearing sunglasses. I've worn a mask for probably about an hour. And it has worn off around my nose, and I think it's generally worn off a little bit, but surprisingly not looking super oily, and it's feeling a little heavy right in the middle of my forehead, but like not too bad in other places, which I think is also reflective of being a very light touch with the product this morning. But this so far is the best wear day so far. I've brought in here the foundation itself and then also some translucent powder because I do want to touch up a little bit, and I thought I would do that on camera. Also, I used a bit of pencil liner today just to thicken up my lash line, and I actually haven't put on any mascara yet. Have I? Maybe I did. That's a very lightweight mascara, but it also transferred a little bit, so I'm gonna fix that up a little. I think what I'm going to do in some areas, like my forehead and like here, is use some translucent powder just to bring the shine down a bit, and then some places like where my sunglasses are sitting and on my chin, I'm going to put on a bit of the foundation because it's powder foundation onto powder. I assume it should be fine. Let's start with the translucent powder. Actually, no, let's start with the foundation and then I can use translucent powder to set things. I also have noticed that I have like these wrinkles right here. It does crack a little bit in there, or like build up a bit in the lines around my mouth. So, okay. I'm doing a pretty light touch into here with my brush, and it's doing very lightly around my chin where I think my mask wore off some of the product. And I think I'm just going to use my finger a little bit, just sort of swirling in here and tapping onto the place where it wore off under my nose pad. There we go, that brought down the shininess on my chin. And now I'm just gonna use a little bit of this Ciate Everyday Vacay powder to bring down the shine on my forehead a little. And I think I will also dust it a little bit around my cheeks. I'm trying to do a very, very light touch with this. So that's all generally looking pretty good. Ooh, except for where my transfer happened there. Luckily I can just wipe that away. And there we go. I am set for filming. I'm just going to reapply my lip product. Again, so far, this is the best day yet. So I'll be interested to see how this holds up for the rest of the day. Today is actually evening of the day after the day that you just watched. That's why the title card at the beginning of this day's segment was day 5 and 6. I got busy and I didn't do a check-in at the end of the night, but I did notice, after thinking everything looked pretty good, after touching up with the translucent powder and with the foundation itself again, when I was looking in different lighting, it looked really patchy, and it kind of made sense because in certain areas, like around my nose pads or where my sunglasses rubbed off the foundation on my chin, I built it up there again and then not built it up in other places. So it really wasn't looking that great. But today, I did everything that I have learned how to do. I used a smoothing primer. I used the Cover FX primer again. I applied with a brush with a pretty light hand. At about the 3-hour point, I used a oil blotting paper to blot up a little bit of the oil, and then it looked okay for a little while longer. And then about 2 hours ago, I just used translucent powder to touch up again. So this is by far the best this has looked in any of the wear tests. And we are at the 8-hour point right now. So it's not looking too shiny. I wouldn't be embarrassed to go out in public like this. I do find it has gotten shinier again around my cheeks. And there are places like around the wrinkles around my lips where it's gathered a little bit. Same on my forehead. In my forehead lines, it's sort of gathered a little. So you can make this work, but it still feels incredibly heavy and crazy heavy for how little product I have used. So I've resisted touching it all day so I could show you. I will give you a close-up. It's not looking bad, but it is looking heavy. And it's feeling even heavier than it looks. And all I want to do is take this off because I just want it to do that all day. Like, it just feels like I'm dragging my fingers through like a thick moisturizer. Like, it doesn't feel good. And same with my chin. It's like I can feel the oil on there, and it's just like, ugh. The other day I had finished my wear test, and it was going to be a little while before, like, I usually take a shower to wash off my makeup, but I just felt like I needed it off my face. Like, I ended up splashing my face with water and just scrubbing it just to like get this feeling off my face. So yeah, like, oh, I want the heavy feeling off, and that's not a good feeling. So even on a day when I can make it look okay, it doesn't feel okay. And I cannot imagine what this would feel like after 16 hours. And I say that because they call it a 16-hour foundation. I feel like you can tell what my reaction is going to be just from watching the footage. I do not recommend this product. I could make it work, but it was work to make it work. I would describe this product as finicky, patchy, and not long-lasting. In the benefits, they describe it as being a matte finish, which it is when you first put it on, but it is definitely not throughout the day. They say it's full coverage, which yes, if you apply a lot of it, it's going to be full coverage. and they say it's easily blendable, which I did not find to be true. I had to work so hard to make this look good. And I don't even think there's anybody I would recommend this for. Because it does get so dewy during the day, you would maybe think, okay, maybe this would work with people for super dry skin. But at the start of the day, it's so drying and powdery looking, I feel like it wouldn't work for the first couple hours of the day for people who are dry. And usually your foundation and your makeup looks best when first applied. But I definitely would not recommend it for people with oily skin. My skin is not particularly oily, and it felt so heavy by the end of the day. I just can't imagine what it would be like for people with oily skin. And then there's people like me with normal combination skin, and as you could see, I was still struggling. I'll just say that this is patchy, it highlights texture, and it settles into lines, none of which are what you want. Now, because this is a drugstore foundation, I do like to give a recommendation of a product that I do like. My go-to lately from the drugstore has been the CoverGirl Active Outlast foundation. For me, it always makes my skin look better, and I've actually repurchased it. I rarely repurchase makeup because I test so much of it, so for me to repurchase something, it means I really enjoyed it. Again, everyone's skin is different, but I just wanted to provide a recommendation. Before I end this video, I have some requests and then some questions. First of all, my request is that if you did enjoy this video, please click the like button and subscribe if you're not subscribed already. My questions are there any powder foundations that you think would work for me? Are there any that you really enjoy? Right now, I'm not sure what the benefits are of powder foundation, but I would love to hear from you. So please leave that in the comments down below. I do enjoy getting recommendations. Thank you so much for watching my video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye.